Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hi dear friends, we are back today with another chapter of the book Living Spring by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. And again today, Emmanuel is going to bless us with a beautiful chapter. And we are going to have a few questions that we need to ask ourselves. There are a few things in this chapter that we have to look at to see if we can recognize ourselves. So let us begin. Chapter 50 of Living Spring. Let us go forward. Brothers, as for me, I do not consider myself as having already reached perfection. But one thing I do, I have forgotten the things I left behind and go forward to those that lie ahead. And this is Paul in Philippians 3 verses 13 and 14. On the Christian pathway, we are always meeting large numbers of brothers and sisters who are lingering in the shadows of unproductivity, declaring themselves victims of spiritual setbacks. It is someone who is weeping from having lost a loved one that was called to the transformation of the grave. It is the worker who has been hurt by the misunderstanding of a friend. It is the missionary who has stopped because of slander. It is the one who regrets the desertion of a partner in the good cause. It is the worker of the good who complains endlessly about having been abandoned by his spouse because she could not understand his loving dedication. Okay, let me just get this next page. It is the wife who is constantly grumbling about how much her family misunderstands her. It is the idealist who waits for the material fortune to begin the work he or she has been called to do. It is the person who is waiting for a well-paying job before devoting him or herself to good works. It is the person who feels scandalized by other people's faults, thus freezing his or her ability to serve. It is the person who develops a wrong, deplores a wrong he or she committed, wasting the blessing of time on destructive remorse. The past may be filled with virtues of experience, but it's not always the best conductor of life for the future. It is essential to guard the heart against all numbing converings that often enshroud our soul. Construction, longing, hope, and scrolls are sacred, but they should not constitute obstacles that keep our spirit from accessing the higher realm. Paul of Tarsus, who had been familiar with the terrible aspect of human struggle deep within his own heart, reached the highest of Christ's apostolate. And he offers us the sure route to spiritual growth. Let us forget all the bad experiences of yesterday and let us go forward to the days of enlightenment that awaits us. Is the essence of his fraternal advice to the Philippians. Let us focus our energies on Jesus and press on. No one can progress without self-renewal. So, wow, what a chapter. So let's breathe, and then we will go through this chapter together. Emmanuel is telling us on the Christian pathway, we are always meeting large numbers of brothers and sisters who are lingering in the shadows of unproductivity, declaring themselves victims of spiritual setbacks. Okay, so he starts this chapter by telling us that everybody is called, we know, to do the good works, the spiritual works. Every one of us is called to do this. But along the way, we know of many that gets tired. And Emmanuel's explaining all these scenarios that we sometimes use as excuses not to do the good, not to focus on spreading the good news. So when we go through these step by step, let's listen and see if we can recognize ourselves in one or maybe more of these explanations. It is someone who is weeping from having lost a loved one that we call to the transformation of the grave. So sometimes death of a loved one can make someone stagnate. So not in a mindset of going on, of focusing on the good. And we as spiritists are constantly educated and reminded of death. It is for us to think about death at least once a day. To work with it, we work with the spiritual world. So we know what to expect, what is expected of us. And sometimes when then someone dies and goes back to the spiritual realm, we are struck. But now, on this time on earth, there are so many souls going back to the spiritual realm. So every one of us knows someone, or maybe knows someone who knows someone, or maybe someone close to us, or maybe many close to us, disconnected because of COVID. Now, a lot of people are ill in South Africa. A lot of people, COVID is really in a bad place. So every one of us knows someone, and we know a lot of people who are disconnected, that we know about, people in hospital. How are our mental attitudes towards all these things? Because there's a lot of things going on at the moment. But where are you and I, beloved? Where are you and I? Are we educating ourselves? Are we praying to understand so that we can come in a evolutionary way so that we can pray through this? There's a lot of education on death in Spiritism. And a few weeks back, the Spirit Society of Virginia did their Friday talk about death. And it's good to go back and watch it so that we can maybe read more about it, educate ourselves, and even, like Vanessa has told us, Mentor Joseph has told us that we should visualize the people nearest to us when they sleep, returning back to the spiritual realm. And even ourselves, if we look at ourselves, if we meditate and think about if we have to go back, if this today is my time and my time on earth is done, are we in a place of understanding, of letting go? Letting go of the people that needs to go back. And it is beautiful to remember that we are never apart. If we truly understand Spiritism, We know that there is a constant mind-to-mind connection to all sorts. And even if someone close to us passes and goes back to the spiritual realm, we can always have some sort of communication. And we need to work daily to get ourselves there, to get ourselves in a place where we can still talk about the good news, because this is the good news, that there is no death, that there is only a transformation from one world to the other. Let's continue. It is workers who have been hurt by the misunderstanding of a friend. I think in all of our lives, sometimes there would be a misunderstanding. We are still learning to communicate correctly and lovingly. So, if we have this understanding, and of course, because we are still learning and every one of us is different, there will be some sort of different views. And that is where the respect comes in for every soul. Not to push our will on someone, to make them see what we see, because we truly believe in what we see and understand, but because we know if God let them do what they do and understand what they understand, and maybe myself, because I can be the one who's wrong, that I should have a godly respect for that soul, and not be on like saying something to make them feel bad or all that. Just be loving and respectful to one another. And even if it's towards you, then work through that. Don't take it personally, because we need to focus on the good and have respect and be humble, because Jesus never went to the authorities to tell them that he's Jesus, he's the governor of this planet, and what he says is how it should be. He was very humble. And we are still not understanding the complete understanding of what humble means or loving means. So in a practice, let's do that. Let's let go of our own egos, our own self, and be a type of friend, a fraternal friend, without the next person changing the next person's view so that they can understand and see the same as I do. And if they don't, that is okay. As long as you do and I do the best in our ability according to our own understanding. That is all that is expected from us. The next one. It is the missionary who has stopped because of slander. Beloved friends, we will never be free of slander. Jesus taught this to the disciples as well. Because there are so many different people in the world on many different levels, we should understand that some are not there where they can practice not having an opinion or forcing an opinion on others. So of course we look for things that we think are not okay. But we should be the one to not slander. So rather than worry about the slander, let's make sure that we are not those who do this to our friends and our brothers and sisters. And still, let's do the best we can do. It is the one who regrets the desertion of partners in the good care. Good cause. Of course. I think many spirits will tell you that they have been through their lives, especially maybe spirits that have been born, people that come and go, and people that make friends and then they make bad decisions for the future. And we know about a few. But it is not for us to judge and say, no, I'm not going to do this alone. It is for us to press on, like Emmanuel says in the end. We need to press on for the good news and pray for those who maybe have fallen along the road. It is workers of the good who complained endlessly about having been abandoned by his spouse because she could not understand his loving dedication. If we are new spiriters maybe, or maybe sometimes a partner of spiriters that do not understand the spiriters' callings, it is okay. Again, it is not to be understood. It is for you to understand, to educate yourself, to be the example of love, not complaint, to constantly complain. And I think about the story in the Good News, where Joanna went to Jesus and complained about her husband. And Jesus told her that she should treat him like a child. She should have understanding and patience. So I think that is where we should have understanding and patience and prayer for one another. It is the wife who is constantly grumbling about how much her family misunderstands her. There are no person on this earth that is understood, because we are spirits still learning ourselves. We still have to understand ourselves and our tendencies. So to be understood and to think that people should understand you is a long stretch, because we are still day to day getting to know ourselves and our tendencies. So just as much as we practice self-love, self-forgiveness, we should do this for others as well. It is the idealist who waits for the material fortune to begin the work he or she has been called to do. Beloveds, we are all called to do the work for the good. And especially now, more than ever, we are called to do the good, to be the portal of love and light, to be the one, the example of patience, of love, of positivity. So we shouldn't wait for money or material things to do things, because that is just some part of charity. Charity begins by every thought, every word, and everything we do to everyone, every person, every human, every animal, everything. Then we are still not even understanding God. So if we focus on loving and give when you can give, and if you can't, just pray. We don't need material things to only serve, because that helps too. Of course it does. And when you should serve in materialism and material things, God will provide that. But when you don't have that, then God is expecting you to serve in other ways. Because where you are is where God wants you to be. And it is a lesson. And we have to see what this lesson is. And we have to work with this lesson. And when we have more, like material fortune, we need to do more, of course. And not less if you don't have. There's always a plan, and there's always something we can do. There's the person who's waiting for a well-paying job before devoting him or herself to good works. Good works has nothing to do with jobs, with work. If you have a job, you have more responsibility to be good, to be an example, to pray for more people. Because everyone that comes into your existence are your co-responsibility. Because then what are you giving out? What can everyone around you get from you? What can I learn from that person, and what can that person learn from me? So, to wait for a job, there is a lot of things out there where we see people, where we do things. And yes, sometimes it is hard. And I know and I understand that in this time on earth that yes, it is not easy. But to send a message, to pray for someone. There are many people disconnecting to pray. If you see newsfeed, to pray. To do good things. To see that your energy, what are you giving out? But we can't wait because the time on earth is not ours. To study, to do something. Even if you just study, there are plenty of spirits with you studying. The smallest things are service and charity. So we have to be open to understanding what we can do in small things so that we can help even the spirits that are with us. It is in the person who feels scandalized by others' faults, thus freezing his or her ability to serve. We have to help one another when someone that we know or know about goes through these things. But we should never take things personally on ourselves. We shouldn't let that anything in this world stop us from the work that we should do. If we feel that feeling that you are hindered to do this work, that is a time to pray and ask for help. In the person who deplores a wrong he or she committed, wasting the blessings of time on destructive remorse. We all are still learning. And just like I would want you to bear with me through my road of evolution. We should do this for everybody, but we should never stop the work because we think that we did something wrong. We are all learning, and today is a new day. When we woke up, we should be thankful, and we should say thank you. A new day to serve, to help, to learn. The past may be filled with the virtues of experiences, and Emmanuel says, it is experiences. It's like these lessons that we do. But it's not always the best conductor of life for the future. We should never, I don't want to use the word never, we should try not to focus on yesterday and its mistakes. Like Vanessa has helped us, we should bless the past. Bless it, say thank you for the lesson, and today is a new day and begin anew. Because yesterday is not, you are not the same person today that you were yesterday. Because we are constantly evolving. We can't go backwards. And that is wonderful to know. But sometimes it's most hard for ourselves to forgive ourselves, to look ourselves in the eyes and see that we can grow. And this is why journaling is so important, because we can see ourselves grow. Confusion, longing, hope, and scribbles are sacred, but they should not constitute obstacles that keep our spirit from accessing the higher realm. So, not too much hope in earthly things. Of course, we have hope in good things to come because we trust in God. Paul of Tarsus, who had been familiar with the terrible aspect of human struggle deep within his own heart, reached the highest of Christ's apostolate, and he offers us the sure route to spiritual growth. In the next words, like Emmanuel was saying, let us forget all the bad experiences of yesterday and let us go forward towards the days of enlightenment that awaits us, is the essence of his fraternal advice to the Philippians. And we all know the story about Apostle Paul's journey. And I think if he is telling us to forget our past, and that is where the secret lies for us to be happy in this moment, then I think it is great advice. Let us focus our energies on Jesus and press on. No one can progress without self-renewal. We renew ourselves, beloved friends, each day through every lesson that we have through Cardiac Radio, and that the things that we do ourselves. Renewal is the practice of all these virtues, all these things that we learn from Spiritism. And how beautiful have Emmanuel come and tell us all these different things so that we can see ourselves there, and he gave us the remedy for that. So in the next week, let's look at ourselves and think about this. And let's, like we heard yesterday or the day before, in the morning prayer by Vanessa, which was so beautiful, the power of one. So regardless if you are the only one in your household, in your family, that is a spiritist and you truly understand this, let's believe in the power of one. That one person can make a difference. And that we do through every prayer, through every lesson, and through everything we do. So taking the time, being together, listening to all these lessons at Cardiac Radio, we help not only ourselves, but all the spirits that are with us. And also, of course, ourselves. But the more effort we put in, the more time we put in educating ourselves, in focusing on the good, the more we help others as well through every prayer. Because in this day and age on earth, we need to pray constantly for everyone, for ourselves, and for everything. And still, we do all this and we walk in this life with joy in our hearts and faith, so that we know that all is well. Thank you so much for joining me today. May God bless you, and until next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.